Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing with you my experience getting an epidural. For reference, I just have one child. He was 9 pounds 6 ounces and I did get an epidural. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the pros and cons, if I would do it again, if I don't want to do it again, what that kind of looks like every step of the way. I hope that this is helpful for at least one person. If it is, please make sure you give me a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so it is November 13th, 2019, about 7:30 in the morning. My nurse came in to check on me and she had asked me if I wanted to receive an epidural. Up to this point, I had really not been for or against it. I kind of was just playing it by ear, seeing how everything was going to go, and if I felt like I needed it or not. I kind of explained to her that I really wasn't sure if I was going to get one or not. I was just going to try and see if I could do it unmedicated. She kind of explained to me that I needed to decide now if I thought I would be eventually getting one so that they could have an anesthesiologist ready to go when I needed the epidural. So I thought about it for a couple of minutes and I did let her know that I would be getting an epidural as long as the pain continued to progress. And she's like, okay, do you want it now? And I said, no, right now I'm okay. Let's wait as long as we can. I didn't want it to wear off by the time I had delivered him. Okay, so now it's like 8 in the morning, 30 minutes later, my nurse comes in to check me. She asks how I'm doing. I'm ready for an epidural at this point. It's only been 30 minutes since she talked to me last, and my contractions got much more intense, much longer, and much closer together. So I was like, I need the epidural as soon as possible. So she brought the anesthesiologist in the room literally minutes later. It was fantastic. So nice that they were able to bring him in that quickly after I said I needed it. Just a side note, please, please, please make sure the anesthesiologist they are going to send you is in your network. I had no idea that this was something that occurred. I made sure my doctor was in my network and I thought that was good enough. They ended up sending me an anesthesiologist that was out of network, and because of that I had to pay 100% of that cost out of pocket. It was like $1,200. You should not have to think about that while you're in active labor, but I just want to give you a heads up. It's the world we live in. It really is crappy. They should never do that to anybody, but it happens all of the time. I've done a lot of research on it and it's really sad. So don't let it happen to you if you are going to get an epidural. Okay. Anyway, so anesthesiologist came in. He sat me up on the side of the bed and kind of had me hunch over a little bit. I never saw the needle, but I did confirm it is like 4 inches long. He inserted it into my spine. At that point, the pain associated with getting the epidural paled in comparison to the pain of my contractions. It was not that bad. I was always someone who was worried about that part. If I did decide to do an epidural, and it really wasn't that bad, especially compared to the pain of the contractions. So if that's something you're worried about, when you're to the point of wanting an epidural, you're probably going to be just very happy that you're getting it and you're not going to be worried about the pain. Okay, so he inserted the needle. At this point in time, they do insert a catheter into your spine instead of just the one shot, so that throughout the rest of your labor, you can just push a button and it sends more drugs your way, which is really nice. That way you can kind of control the amount of drugs you're getting. I pressed that button a lot towards the end. I thought I was being brave for a while, but once I got towards the end, I was just pushing that button. I think you can push it every 10 minutes or so. At the end, it's literally as much as you can. Anyway, so have the epidural, they laid me back down, and it was literally within minutes that it kicked in fully, and it was so freaking nice. I think that is the most relaxed I've ever been in my entire life. I just remember laying there being completely at peace, completely comfortable, pain-free. It was really, really nice. He did insert the, I guess, the epidural a little bit towards the right. So my right leg was completely dead, and my left leg, I still had some mobility left in it. So I could control my left leg, I could move it. My right leg, I literally couldn't move at all. So that's kind of funny. I just remember it just being completely dead, and then the nurses had to like pick it up and move it if I needed it to be adjusted. So it was kind of funny. Labor continued to progress. As I said, I got the epidural around 8 a.m. and I delivered my son at 9:45 p.m. after 3 hours of pushing. By the time he was delivered, I could feel some of it. I was the one who was telling the nurses that I was having a contraction, and they would confirm it on the monitor that I was having a contraction, and then I would push. So I did feel that much at least. Unfortunately, I did tear, so I could feel the doctor stitching me back up. I think that's a misconception with epidurals, is that you can't feel anything. And in my case, that wasn't true. I still could feel the contractions at the end. I felt being sewn back up. Not a great experience there, but it definitely took the edge off for sure. The part that I dislike about the epidural is after you have that baby. For me, they took my catheter out of my bladder catheter, because I had the one in my spine as well. And pretty shortly after they took the catheter out, I had to pee. And so you can't get up and walk around because you're still partially paralyzed from the epidural. So I did have to have assistance going to the restroom for several hours. You can't stand up and rock your baby. You can't stand up and talk to your family. You're kind of bound to the bed. And after being in that bed for 19 hours, I was so over it at that point. And I really wished that I could have gotten up and walked around and been a little bit more interactive with people. So I would say that's the main con with the epidural, is just that you're not going to be able to be mobile during and after you have the baby. So like while you're in labor, you're going to be pretty much bound to the bed. After you have the epidural, you can't get up and walk around. You can't bounce on the ball. You are stuck in bed, which does kind of suck. And it gets a little uncomfortable after a while being stuck in a bed for hours on end. And then again, after you have the baby, you are going to be limited with your mobility and being able to move around. So that kind of sucks. I think those are really the main pros and cons to the epidural. The pro, obviously, is that it's going to ease that pain for you, and the con is that you're just going to be limited on being able to move around. For me, next time, I would like to try an unmedicated birth. However, I think that I am still open to having an epidural. I know towards the end of your active labor, those contractions get very, very intense, and I don't know if I would be able to do it. I think that I would try to go a little bit longer without the epidural next time if I'm lucky enough to have another kid. But I'm definitely not against it. I think that just knowing what to expect with it kind of helps you to be better suited in that situation. I just think having proper expectations is important. Okay, so one more thing I want to add about the epidural. I think it's important to know this. No one else told me this, but it makes sense. With an epidural, you do lose all control of your functions below the waist because you're essentially paralyzed from the waist down. So just think about all the things that you normally would have control of below the waist, and now you will not have control of those things. They do put in a catheter, so you don't have to pee. It automatically just takes care of that for you. But in that whole area, you do not have control. So just be prepared for that. It's going to be kind of embarrassing, but at the end of the day, it is going to be the least of your worries because you've got a lot going on. But I did want to mention that really briefly. Okay, so we are now to the end of the video. I hope this was helpful for at least one of you guys. If it was, again, make sure you give me that big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more content. In the comments below, let me know if you got an epidural or if you're planning on getting an epidural, and let me know what your experience was. I would love to hear about it, and I'm sure other people would as well. Thank you guys, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.